Yeah, I would say this, that if, and for those out there that can't hear Sylvia's question, she's asked me about extension of the current tax cuts that are across the board and affect folks in all income brackets. I think functionally that, let's put it this way, if we are lucky enough for the economy to really begin to turn around and surge in within the next year, then I would favor making an adjustment in the in tax rates sooner. I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're talking about at least going out a full year, sticking with current tax cuts. When the time comes, and it could be, who knows? I mean, we've been struggling now for several years to get out of this. There's been a lot of talk about that, to get out of the tight situation we are in economically here in the United States of America and in Northeast Indiana. I'm going to say a year, and if the economy really booms and turns around at some time, then I do think that folks in higher tax brackets should be up at the old rates. If that should happen, I doubt that it will. I hope that it will. I want to work with others, Republicans and Democrats in Congress, to make that happen.
So if the economy would still be at this time next year, would support extending it further?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say so.
Okay, and then what would the economy have to do? What would be the measurement that
Sure.
quantify in order for the tax rate to
Yeah, let me put it this way. After I'm elected, I'm going to continue to pay close attention to what economic experts have to say. It isn't just my own criteria. It isn't my own yardstick, my own measuring system, so to speak, that I'm going to be paying attention to. And I would look forward to the opportunity to sit in Congress and hear economic experts come forward and discuss the situation, discuss pros and cons regarding the effect of tax policy on the economy. And so I'm purposely going to say that you're talking theoretically about a year down the line. I'd want to be spending time town hall meetings here in Northeast Indiana with a few thousand people in the room, getting feedback from citizens. I've always believed as a candidate and also elected official that interaction needs to go on continually. So I don't think there is one single black and white measuring stick, I'll put it that way, or one single specific criterion on which I would base that decision in the future.
What group of
at what point then would you think that the tax rate will be the higher end?
Well, I think when you go ahead.
Are you saying that when the economy has reached some critical point, or are you saying that in a year?
I'm not being specific about it because there's so many variables going on into the future. I don't think there's any way to really pin that down. We need to have, I think, a stronger economy. What a Hoosier would describe as a stronger economy, because he or she has a job and can go out and buy a car and go out and buy a refrigerator, or even afford to go out and buy groceries, so to speak. I mean, that would be a factor to weigh in the balance. What economic experts at the national level had to say about the economy, I think all those factors would have to play out and make sense to me, taking in all of that information before I would say, yeah, the time has come for us to go ahead and eliminate the tax breaks for that extremely wealthy upper 1 or 2 or 3% on into the future. So I hope everybody's had a general idea about Sylvia's questions here. I haven't repeated them all for others in the room, but I hope hope you've been able to get the general gist of what she's been asking me. Sylvia, you mind, I'm going to leave the phone here. I'm going to answer a couple other questions, and I'll be back. Is that all right?
All right.
Thank you.
If you could get specific about those, you mentioned 1, 2, 3% of the top income earners.
Yeah.
Where would you fall on that? Assuming that the economy comes back to your satisfaction, is it
Sure.
the top 1%, 2%, or 3%? You know which it would be. Where would you limit that?
I'm going to talk in general terms about that. I think it depends on lots of different variables. I'll put it that way. At the national level, the income level of $250,000 or 250, and I believe single, married. There are a couple different numbers there have been talked about a lot. I'm not even going to hang my hat definitely on that because there are so many variables with regard to the future of our economy. My main point is right now, let's maintain the tax cuts until the economy recovers, both here in Northeast Indiana and throughout the nation. I will say this, that tax policy is part of what we need to do to rejuvenate our economy, but we also need, for instance, one thing that's very, very important, I think, is for us to be very vigorous in focusing on a U.S. trade policy, international trade policy that looks out for America.
Yeah.
And I read a couple comments recently, for instance, by the I'm blocking on his name right now, the gentleman who started Intel, Andy Grove. And Andy Grove says if we have to enter a phase where we are literally having a very aggressive, vigorous scrap, so to speak, or a battle with other countries around the world in a figurative sense, looking out for American workers and the American economy when it comes to trade policy, for instance, with regard to China and their manipulation of their currency, which makes it which basically has resulted in our lots of American jobs going to China, and a lot of and made it very difficult for us to ship products into China. That's the kind of thing we need to work on way beyond tax policy. Tax policy is part of it, but also international trade reform is also very important in rejuvenating the economy of this area. We lost something like 8 million jobs to China the last 10 years, and I think that was a big part of that was because we didn't have the right trade policy in place.
Do we need to have more of a protectionist kind of a mentality?
I'm not going to use the word protectionist. I just think we need to be on an equal footing with China, not a stronger footing, but our position in international trade needs to be at least as strong as theirs. We're on a level footing. Right now, they have a better. They're in a stronger position than we are, especially with all the currency manipulation. So I don't consider it protectionist to say we want to be. It's like if you have a basketball game, you have a referee out there that says everybody's playing by the same rules. They're playing by different rules than we are. They're playing by rules that help workers in their country and hurt our country. I'm not talking about protectionism, but keeping everything on an even keel with regard to us and China. One more question. Let me ask about media. Any questions from the media?